The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim came out 10 years ago, today, on November 11th, 2011. At first, I didn't quite know what to think of it. In fact, after seeing the commercials on TV, I honestly thought that the game was kind of weird. But as time went on, my opinion of it changed, both for the worse and better. Though I think that to tell the story that I've had with Skyrim over these past 10 years, I should first tell the story of those who not only shaped my experience with the game, but have ultimately helped form my opinion of it. With the hope being that maybe through the stories and reasons for liking the game that you'll hear throughout my story, that the way I feel about Skyrim, through all its flaws, can come to the forefront, and maybe even express to you all what the game has meant to me all these years.
The year is 2011. If you're watching this, you were probably a child at the time, or a teenager at oldest. I know I was. Bethesda Game Studios releases their 5th entry into the Elder Scrolls franchise. While Morrowind had been a cult classic and Oblivion had been many of our personal forays into fantasy games, Skyrim was something else. Skyrim was a cultural phenomena. It got people who had never played a fantasy game, hell, people who'd never played a video game to pick up the thing and jump in. And this year marks the 10th anniversary of that cultural phenomena, which, strangely, never died out. Yes, Skyrim is one of those evergreen titles that still has an active player base, yours truly included, by the way. But why? Well, there's a charm to this game. Yes, it's poorly written and buggy and really unstable, and my god does this game crash a lot, but there's something about it, isn't there? This game has managed to connect a lot of people who otherwise would never have any reason to do anything with video games like this. I know myself and the vast majority of the people who subscribe to this channel specifically did so originally because I talked about Skyrim lore. And my brother and I built this channel on Skyrim lore, predominantly. We've moved on from it, obviously, but this game really does mean something to the both of us. I remember playing this game in both the highest of high moments I've had and the lowest of lows that I've been. And regardless of where I've been in life, turning on Skyrim and just letting myself get sucked into the well-made, beautiful world of the game. Keep in mind, the story still sucks, but the world, it's something else. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, 10 years on, Skyrim hasn't changed, but it has taken us young kids who played it and let us grow. Whatever the case may be with many of us, I know Skyrim will still be here, as that friend you can always turn to.
For me, it all started in the winter of 2012. My brother and I had gotten the choice to pick any 2 games that we liked. I ended up choosing Assassin's Creed Revelations and my brother, Skyrim. At first, I thought that the game that I had chosen was the better one. I mean, how couldn't it have been? But the more I played Skyrim, the more I got sucked into its world, the more I began to understand why so many had loved its predecessors.
So, Skyrim to me is sort of the embodiment of what it means to play video games. People play video games to get into a different mindset. They play to experience a world that just makes life better all around. Skyrim's perfect for that kind of thing, because it's got the immersion aspect, it's got the lore, it's got the combat, it's got whatever you could want really. It's kinda like something that a lot of other game devs they just don't do. It's kinda like a blessing on the gaming industry. Skyrim's helped so many people have better lives, it's opened up inspiration, and creativity, and I personally couldn't ask for more out of a game. I'm really thankful for it, and I know a lot of other people are too.
The immersiveness of the game was beyond that I had ever seen up until that point. Not only did the world pull me in the second the game began, but it made me want to go over there and climb that mountain. It made me want to hunt down dragons, fight monsters, explore caves, and perhaps most importantly, it made me want to seek more. Not just from the game, but everything, though I doubt I would have understood that at the time.
What I love about Skyrim is not necessarily the story or the gameplay or the art style, or even most of the characters. I mean, The game is very flawed, and with its age, the flaws have become more and more apparent. I've heard several people tell me that the game has simply become too dated to play at this point. They say that the combat is clunky, the quests are uninspired, the game is too buggy, and that the perk system is too simple. And I agree with a lot of that, and yet, what I truly love is Skyrim's unparalleled freedom. It can be the ultimate fantasy sandbox world for you to play around in, with or without mods. You can do what you want, when you want it, and be who you want. Believe it or not, back in 2016 when Special Edition came out, I just straight up spent a whole in-game month just living in the Alchemist Shack and doing some farming with a farming mod, hunting around, selling my spoils, and just living my life with a survival mod where I had to eat and drink and dress myself warmly. There are probably games which do all of that better, and I can think of a few just from the top of my head, but the fact that all of that I can do, and so much more with and without mods on Tamriel in Skyrim, makes this game so special to me. Morrowind, Oblivion, and Elder Scrolls Online undoubtedly had better stories, not even just to speak of the older games, but Skyrim had this complete sense of freedom, which is yet to be matched for me in any other game, and that's why I love this game so much.
The more of the game I played, the more I discovered. Doing things I could never have imagined in real life. Becoming the hero of the game. And even freeing myself in some regards. Freedom that I'd never felt in any other game before. And freedom that I honestly haven't felt since.
When I first played Skyrim, it pushed me further towards immersing myself in the lore of the Elder Scrolls, because I've played its predecessors before, but as a kid I took them mostly at face value at the time. And the sheer amount of hours that I put into Skyrim made me more heavily interested in the world building of the Elder Scrolls series. So Skyrim is largely responsible for the stuff that I'm doing today on my channel.
This level of freedom that Skyrim let me experience began to lead me down a road where I constantly kept searching for things, be them in-game items or lore. And as I searched for lore, I began to realize that the bounds of the game were being reached. And so, I began to look for other resources where I could learn more about Skyrim's lore, starting with the Dwemer and eventually transitioning to gods, the Daedra, creation, and much, much more.
My journey with this gem of a game started near the end of 2011, and nothing prepared me for the years of memories this game would bring. Skyrim is memorable to me because of the many things that make it special, from the picturesque landscape all the way to its highly dedicated community. The Elder Scrolls lore in particular is something that kept me involved in the community during my hiatuses, and I never shied away from learning more when it came to the lore of each Elder Scrolls game. Wanting to learn more about certain topics is also what further inspired me to create content, not to mention how it enhanced my future playthroughs because of my newfound ability to properly roleplay someone from a certain province. Looking back at it, every year spent playing Skyrim made me start treasuring the other aspects of it, but the glue that nearly always kept it together for me was replayability. Although it's a bit sad for me to say this, Skyrim's current replayability wouldn't have been possible without the modding scene, mainly because a large majority of people still create mods, which allows us to broaden our ability to roleplay. Content creation is another thing that kept me dedicated, and the people I've met as an Elder Scrolls YouTuber have been nothing short of brothers to me. Zurkonov and Kuyo helped me in ways I can't even begin to repay, which is why I'm still an avid enjoyer of every aspect that Skyrim encompasses. To wrap this up, we can all agree that modders and consistent community outreach are what kept Skyrim alive for so long, even if it came in the form of memes from Reddit or Kinky Lovers Lab mods.
At some point in time, I began to wonder to myself, were there others out there that were as curious as I was? I knew there were YouTubers who covered the lore of the Elder Scrolls, but were there those who really delved into the meaning of it? To this, the answer, while not no, was that there weren't any that tried to make the deeper and more philosophical concepts in the Elder Scrolls well known. And so I began my journey, making lore videos about the metaphysics of the Elder Scrolls universe, and eventually making it the reason why people would show up to my channel. It'd be through this channel that I would come to meet those that I now consider good friends, people that I could never found otherwise, and people that had similar experiences to mine. These people would become those that this video revolves around, and would serve as not only my source of knowledge for a long time, but also one of my greatest emotional supports as life progressed.
Oh, Skyrim, what more is there to say? Like every other game in the series, Skyrim is far from perfect, but still manages to be wonderful in its own unique way, almost in spite of itself. If nothing else, Skyrim was and still is just a damn lot of fun. Time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time, and Skyrim is the perfect embodiment of that idea. Or at least that's how I justify the ludicrous number of hours I've spent playing it. Skyrim wasn't my first journey in the lands of Tamriel, but it was for many. Over the past decade, Skyrim has introduced whole generations of gamers to the Elder Scrolls. A vast, diverse, and oftentimes plain bizarre body of lore. The collaborative work of dozens of writers and designers, which began over a quarter century ago, has all come together to form a rich, believable world, the likes of which not often seen outside of our own ancient myths. This game has been the gateway into a world filled to the brim with history, culture, mythology, stories, folklore, and all the other things that build up this universe into one that I cannot keep myself away from. Skyrim and other games like it have inspired me to explore our own rich world of mythology and folklore. Skyrim may very well have done a lot to sow the seeds of what's sure to become a lifelong personal passion. For that, I will always be grateful. Thank you, Skyrim, and happy anniversary.
My delve into the metaphysics of Elder Scrolls would eventually lead me into a grouping of works often referred to as coda, essentially non-canon works written by a former writer at Bethesda. It would be through these works that I would finally get my sought-after greater meanings, finding that the universe of Elder Scrolls had always been something intended for the player, be it as a game or as expressed in lore. As time went on though, I began to realize that I wouldn't be able to maintain my output of high-level metaphysics content, and eventually I stopped. But while the burnout had set in for me, primarily from dealing with the community and monotony of researching the same universe for weeks on end, my love for the game hadn't disappeared. And as I began to make content on other games, changing the direction of my channel and finding different avenues to express myself artistically, I would always find a way to go back to Skyrim. Be it modding, talking about its lore to friends, or simply reminiscing on the days I first played it.
Skyrim released when I had 4 roommates. Each one of us went out in the opening night and got the game and hurried home. And as the days went on, because of how great that world was designed, we all found ourselves doing different things. Some of us were better at magic. Some of us had more powerful weapons. I think I was pretty good at blacksmithing. And we all kind of shared the information about where we had been, what we had done. Almost like we were all taking vacations in a city and then splitting up during a day and then going out. Except this was a whole fantasy world. I think it's a testament that the game continues to be popular. And I think that's because of the world. The world of Skyrim is one of the best in video games. And I really don't think that you get the amount of choice and openness in other titles, particularly fantasy titles. It's fantastic.
It's then that I'm now at the present day, looking back, if only briefly and somewhat nostalgically, at the last 10 years of Skyrim. The last 10 years of my life. Putting into words what Skyrim has done for me has been one of the hardest things I've done. As well, the game is just that, a game. It's been responsible for me meeting some of the most memorable people I've ever known, and subsequently shaping who I've become. The game has not only shown me what I can create through its rich lore and detailed worlds, but it's made me the man I am today. As the game was always the comfort I needed. In the darkest times, it was a place to go to escape. And in the best of times, it was a way of having fun without anyone judging.
Okay, this is the third time I've recorded this, because I don't like the takes I'm doing. I want to put something on record for this question, because this is an important question to me, and one I actually want to put thought into. Kuyo messaged me and asked, "What is Skyrim? Why is it important to you? What does it mean to you?" The 10th anniversary of Skyrim is within, I want to say, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it just hit me that this game is now 10 years old. 10 years of my life have passed, and majority of those 10 years I have been playing Skyrim, like a lot. Skyrim is unique. It's a very unique experience compared to most games out there. And I've played a lot of video games at this point. Skyrim is one of those games I can come back to, especially now that I can mod it, because I didn't always have the ability to mod it. That's an interesting story in and of itself, but for years I started playing on the Xbox 360. Then I eventually had a PlayStation 4, which is when Special Edition came out. But for years I played it on the 360. I want to say I clocked around almost 500 to 1,000 hours alone on the 360. Then I want to say after that I got Special Edition, I probably put another 300 to 500 hours alone on that version. And then when I got a PC about 4 years ago, I got it because I wanted to play Skyrim and I wanted to mod it. That was exactly why I got it. And if you notice, my channel is as old as when I've had my PC. That's because when I got that PC, I decided I was going to make YouTube videos. So in a way, Skyrim opened me up to YouTube, which is ironic and funny to say. But that's how much that game meant to me, was I wanted to buy this $1,000 gaming computer just so I can put unique and interesting stories from the community into the game and enjoy those, because Skyrim has an amazing community around it, and that's part of the reason why the game is such a big deal. I have never seen a creative community like the Skyrim community. It's only around that and maybe the New Vegas community for the amount of creativity that community can just emanate. Skyrim is amazing. It's an ocean of a game with the depth that's not overwhelming. It allows you to step in without drowning, and it's something that's comforting. Every year around wintertime, I will play Skyrim because it gives me a sense of nostalgic joy I just can't get from anywhere else. Playing as the Dragonborn is a unique experience that fills me with just a deep sense of joy and satisfaction and comfort. And I'm happy that it's 10 years old. I wish Bethesda realized that the game was extremely important, not just a cash cow, but that it deserves a little bit more respect than how they're kind of treating it right now. And yeah, I'm going to keep probably going on this, so I'm just going to end it here and just say Skyrim means a lot. It's a great game. It's an experience you won't find anywhere else, and I appreciate Kuyo reaching out to me and asking my opinions on it. Sorry, this quality recording is not the greatest of quality, but I hope all of you listening have a nice day, night, or evening, wherever and whenever you're at. I'm going to go to sleep, and this has been Infinity Break. Thank you for having me on, Kuyo.
And so, I think with that, with all the stories of all these people I've brought together told, that I can say what Skyrim has been for me, and why I love it. Skyrim was my first open world RPG, if you can even call it that, acting as the surrogate world to the one I lived in, letting me do what I wanted, all the while making me feel like I had always accomplished something. Despite its horribly outdated combat, graphics, and gameplay, Skyrim has remained timeless to me, because of what it has meant to me. As it's led me to meet so many friends and make this channel what it is today. Or in other words, it's made me me. Skyrim gave me the freedom to explore what I could do, all by letting me go over there, to the peak of some mountain. So thank you, Skyrim. Thank you for everything. Here's to 10 years.